the Israelite customs, which these are fringes. Native American Indians on their garments have fringes on their garments. People call them tassels. Those are fringes. That's Israelite regalia. The Native Americans also were having shields of David on their garments.
Like the Mexicans with the ponchos, they have the garments.
The Mexicans, the ponchos with fringes on it and a border of blue. Those are Israelites. The so-called white man didn't teach them that. They were doing that on their own before the goddamn so-called white man came over here to the Americas. They were doing that on their own. And the Negro that came over here on them cargo slave ships in the 1500s and the 1600s, 1700s, 1800s, those are Israelites also. There ain't no Africans. Those are Israelites also. How they got into Africa was because during the time of 70 AD, the Romans besieged Jerusalem and put an end to the Jewish state. And at that time, over 1 million Jews ran into the interiors of Africa. And we went and hid amongst them Africans and moved over to the West Coast. That's why on the West Coast, they got Fort Judah, Fort Benjamin, Fort Levi. That's not no Hamitic thing. That's an Israelite thing. We just happen to be the same complexion as them. But we're a totally different people than those Hamites over there. And them Hamites know it. That's why those Africans to this day, they don't like you so-called African Americans. They don't like you. All right? And they'll tell you in your face that they don't like you. But a lot of simple ass African Americans who don't know their ass from a hole in the ground, you want to identify yourselves with them. They don't identify with you. They look at you like shit on a stick.
They call you a kata.
Call you a kata, which basically is their way of calling you a nigger in that African slang. They'll call you a kata, which basically is a black American cotton picker.
Are you saying that those African people over there are not from the tribe of Judah?
No, there's Judites that are in Africa. I didn't say that Judah wasn't in Africa. I'm saying that the actual Hamites or the actual Africans, they're not Israelites. We're a separate people from them. The people that are in South Africa and in the Sudan. When we went into Africa running from the Romans, we went and settled on the West Coast.
Okay, right.
That's why the slave trade was all concentrated on the... Well, somebody get the map. Get the map. Anybody got Babylon and Timbuktu on them?
So you had mentioned the Canaanites. Those Africans there, they're the Canaanites?
The Canaanites, that would be Mandela and his people. South Africans, that would be the Canaanites.
The Canaanites?
We were all along here on the West Coast.
Oh, okay.
So we settled here, all here on the West Coast. This is where all the slaves was gathered. They didn't go into the interiors. They didn't go in here. They didn't go into the interior. They didn't go into South Africa. They didn't grab no Zulus and bring those Zulus over here. They only grabbed the ones that was only along the coast here, and those were Israelites.
Oh, okay.
That was along the coast. And them Africans, they know the difference.
Oh, okay.
They know the difference.
So that explains why they don't like us.
Exactly. Because they know that we're a different people. See, the problem with our people here in America, they think everybody that has dark skin is the same.
Right.
It's not so.
That's true.
It's not so. Not everybody that has the same skin complexion is the same people.
Okay, we were Israelites. That means that those Africans that were in the interior were the Canaanites or something?
Well, you have 4 different families. You got the Canaanites, and then you got the you got the Canaanites, you got Put, you got Mizraim, which those are the Egyptians. They later became known as Egyptians when the Greeks went in there, but their name is Mizraim, which is from the Hebrew word Matazari. So you had Mizraim, you had Canaan, you had Put, and you had the Cush. The Cushites, which today they're known as Ethiopians or Somalians. Those are the Cushites. That's not us. Now I'm gonna read some history to you. Read that.
Where's this white man coming from?
This is Babylon, from Babylon to Timbuktu, page 84.
I need to read it.
In the year 65 BC, the Roman armies under General Pompey captured Jerusalem. In 70 AD, General Vespasian and his son Titus put an end to the Jewish state with a great slaughter. During the period of the military governors of Palestine, many outrages and atrocities were committed against the residue of the people. During the period from Pompey to Julius, it has been estimated that over 1 million Jews fled into Africa, fleeing from Roman persecutions and slavery. The slave markets were full of black Jewish slaves.
That's right. The slave markets was full of black Jewish slaves, and over 1 million of us ran into Africa. But there was more than 1 million of us in Jerusalem. The rest that didn't run into Africa, guess what? They ran up further north. They ran up into Europe.
Okay, so where did these scumbag Jews come from?
Okay, I'll answer you on that. Go ahead.
And the Lord said, and the Lord shall scatter thee among all people from one end of the earth even unto the other, and there thou shalt serve other gods which neither thou nor thy fathers have known, even wood and stone. This is Deuteronomy 28 and 64. This prophecy and all the residue of the prophecies contained in Deuteronomy 28, 15 and 68 befell the black Jews after they disobeyed the laws of the Most High. Many nations transported the Jews into slavery, and the sons of Israel transmigrated to every continent.
That's right. So we were taken, not only the bulk of us was brought over here to America, but the ones that escaped Titus and Vespasian ran up into different parts of Europe. Then you had, during the slave trade there in West Africa, you had the Arabs and the actual Africans that were taking us, and they were selling us.
Okay, how come they decided to sell us and not go further into the interior? I don't want my picture.
No, don't put her on. Don't put her on the camera. It's all right. It's all right.
I'm working on a major case, and I don't.
Don't put her. Don't put her on there. It's cool. It's cool.
I don't need them to know who I am.
No problem. No problem. You can stay anonymous like that. It's cool. That's no problem. You were saying?
Okay. Were the Jews original blacks, or they are like, I know they're
always. Well, the real Jews originally are and still are black. Now those people who call themselves Jews to this day,
the scumbags.
Right, the scumbags. You said it right. What happened was during the time of the Crusades, that was our people that were known as the Christians, and that were also under the name of the Moors, under the name of the Moorish Empire. Those were all Israelites. And then you had a sect of us.
Right?
Exactly. Then you had a sect of us. During the Crusades, you had 3 different kinds of Israelites. You had Israelites that went under the classification of Jews, which didn't believe that the Messiah had already come.
Okay.
Then you had the Israelites who were called Christians, which because they believed that the Messiah already came. Then you had another group of Israelites that converted to the religion of Islam and were a part of the Moorish, and were the Moorish Empire, basically.
Okay.
So those 3 different names you hear during the Crusades, those were all Israelites. One was calling themselves Christians, another group Jews, another group Moors. Those were all Israelites. Now during that time, in the 7th century, or 8th century rather, you had a man named Kagan Bullitt, and he was the chief among the Khazars in the Caucasus Mountains. See, the so-called white people, really, where they originally come from, they come from the Middle East. They migrated out into Russia, into the Caucasus. But originally, their landmass is known as Mount Seir, which is south of the land of Judah, over there in the Middle East.
So they were not in the Caucasus?
At first, no. At first, they weren't there. They migrated out there and they went into the Caucasus, but originally they're not from there.
Okay, but what complexion were they?
Exactly the way they look today, with pale, with no melanin. When you have no melanin, that's basically what their skin looks like. They're transparent.
They were not like degenerates from blacks.
Well, they come from us. They come from us. Get Genesis 25th chapter.
Genesis chapter 25.
They come from us. Jacob and Esau.
Yeah. They came.
Verse 21.
Exactly. We don't come from them. They come from us.
Yep.
And Isaac entreated.
In other words, you ever heard the term our evil twin brother? That's exactly who they are. They're the exact opposite of what we are. How do you like to eat your food? Your meat. How do you like your steak cooked?
I don't eat meat.
Okay, well, you're a vegetarian, which there's nothing wrong with that. But let me ask you, how do you like your steak cooked?
Good.
All right. How do white people like their steak cooked?
Good.
Exactly.
These animals.
Yeah, of course. Yeah, of course.
They're
And you know,
cannibalists, aren't they?
well, I'm gonna let the scripture speak. I'm gonna let the scripture speak to you. Read Genesis 25.
Genesis 25, verse 21.
This is the birth of their daddy and our daddy.
And Isaac entreated the Lord for his wife because she was barren. And the Lord was entreated of him, and Rebekah his wife conceived. And the children struggled together within her.
Right, because Isaac, which he's one of the fathers of the promise, when you read the 3 fathers of the promise was Abraham, who birthed Isaac, and then the next son that came out of Isaac was Isaac had Jacob and Esau. They were two brothers, but the chosen was Jacob, not Esau. Jacob was the chosen one.
Okay, but
That's who we come from, Jacob. But these so-called white people, they're sons and daughters of Esau.
and that's the evil side.
The Edomites, exactly.
Okay, but how come she gave birth to that evilness? She must
Well-
have had something going on within her.
Well, you were reading about it because when she was pregnant, she went to inquire the prophet, and the prophet told her, look, 2 nations are in your womb. In other words, the fathers of 2 separate